Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Creative Mind. I'm your host, Byron Craig, and today we are in for a world-class treat. And when I say world-class, I truly mean world-class. My guest today, you may know her as the Karate Hottie when she fought in the UFC. You may know her as co-star of the new movie Havoc that's out on Netflix right now, or a guest star on the TV show The Cleaning Lady on Fox. But I know her as my friend. She was so gracious enough one time to let me stay at her house when I came to do photos of them in Albuquerque. She's amazing. Her family's amazing. I can't say enough good things about her. But let me introduce to you my friend, Michelle Waterson-Gomez.
Oh, thank you for the introduction. It's very sweet. It's been a while since we've actually got to sit down and talk, so it's good hanging out with you. We're going to have a good conversation today.
Absolutely. It has been a while. But every time you fought, I would always like check in text. I'd be like, hey, you killed it. Hey, don't lock the haters. It's, you got this.
The haters let you know you're on the right track.
This is true. This is very true. So I have my first question that I always ask anybody is, who is blank? So for you, it's who is Michelle?
Well, I think I have a lot of different layers. I'm like an onion. And that's probably why I gravitated towards MMA because, you're able to use all sorts of different fighting styles, not just, a specialty. It's mixed martial arts. And that's kind of how my personality is. I have a very mixed personality. I'm a lover, but I'm also a fighter. If you talk to anybody, I think they would be surprised that I'm a fighter because I'm so compassionate. I'm so lighthearted. I'm not very aggressive. But I think that's actually why I fell into fighting, to be honest with you. Growing up, I was very submissive, very passive. I let other people push me around just because I didn't want to create any type of drama. I always wanted to be the peacemaker. And so in doing that, I kind of started losing myself. And when I found martial arts, it gave me a voice. And so it was, I found it in a very pivotal time in my life. I was a tween teenager trying to figure out who I was. And martial arts gave me a voice. And I fell in love with what it did for my confidence. And so I knew that that's what I wanted to do in some capacity for the rest of my life. And, I've been lucky enough to be able to do that. At first, I thought it was going to be through movies. I grew up watching Mortal Kombat, Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. And then on top of that, all of the classic karate movies like The Karate Kid, Best of the Best, of course, Van Damme, Steven Seagal. The names go on, right? But, I was born in the 80s, growing up in the 90s, and karate was very popular. And so I got into that. But where I grew up in Colorado, there wasn't very much opportunity. I didn't have very many connections to anybody in Hollywood, to anybody in the movies. But I did have connections to fighting. That's where the UFC started, was in Colorado. Yep. And funny enough, going through college, I was a waitress at Hooters, and they would always come and get Hooter girls to do ring girl stuff for different fight promotions. So that's actually kind of how I discovered MMA. Really? Was through being a ring girl and watching the fighters get in the Octagon. And when I realized it wasn't just like boxing or it wasn't fake wrestling, I was like, man, this looks very interesting. I think I could do that. And so, I talked to the promoter, and he kind of looked at me like I wasn't serious. But one of the fighters overheard me and kind of took me under his wing. And that fighter is Donald Cerrone. So, moving on, like we became really good friends, took me under his wing, and he's kind of had his own journey, and I've had my own. But, from Colorado, I contribute the introduction into combat sports to him. Since then, I've gone on to do Fight Girls. And so I did Fight Girls before I turned pro. And Fight Girls is kind of like the tough show, but with girls and Muay Thai. So it was great experience for me. I came back and I turned pro, dropped out of college, and decided that I wanted to be a fighter. So that was my journey. And at that time, there were no females in the UFC. Dana White had wanted nothing to do with females, but I absolutely loved it, and I made myself a seat at the table, and figured out a way, right? So it was a lot of smaller fights and moving up in weight classes so I could take fights whenever, wherever. And so I did the regional circuit, and then, started getting on bigger shows like Strike Force and such. And, met my husband out here in Albuquerque, and, he changed my life forever. And I always tell people he was everything I didn't know I needed. Because I think at that time, I was in a very dark place, like relationship wise, not knowing, I guess, when you're a young adult, especially as a female, you don't know your worth, and you do a lot of exploring, trying to figure that out. And yeah, like I said, he was everything I didn't know I needed, and just kind of showed me my worth. And so, we fell in love and we became inseparable, and I had my little one, and it was right in the middle of my career. With the support of him, with the support of my teammates, I was still able to continue to fight after I had her. So and after I had her is when I became the champ of the all-female organization Invicta at 105 pounds. And so I was riding a super high, but something kept gnawing at me, because it was at that same time that they opened up women's division in the UFC. They first started with the 135 division, and then they opened up the 115 division, which was one step above atom weight at a 105. I just remember being distracted by that, prepping for my fight as, prepping to continue to hold my belt at 105, but continuing to just be distracted at this opportunity to maybe be able to fight on the biggest platform in the world. And so I think, honestly, because I was a little distracted, I ended up losing my title. And it was kind of one of those things like, man, where do we go from here? And we reached out to the UFC and asked them if they'd have us. And I'd move up to 115. I put muscle on. I'd prove to them that I belong in the division. And that's what we did. So I had a professional fight career of 18 years. It was amazing. I was a champ at 105. I was able to maintain staying at the top 10 of the division in the UFC for as long as I was in the UFC. 4 main event slots. I had fight of the night, 2 fight of the nights, and a performance of the night. And I just got to travel all the world. And last year I retired, and now I am stepping into, it's kind of come full circle, because now I do have connections in the movie world, Yep. And so stepping into acting, stepping into broadcasting, and just really exploring all those different avenues, but still staying true to my passion, which is martial arts.
I love it. Full circle. Like when you first started talking about movies in the 80s, I'm like, yeah, you're literally living your dream from childhood. Like right now, it took some time and you did a whole bunch of other stuff in between it, but you're doing it.
100%. And honestly, now that I'm out of fighting, I realize how lucky I was to be able to do something that is, probably only not 1% of the world gets to say that they do, and maybe even smaller than that. And I think you kind of, when you're in it, when you're doing something you love and you're in it, sometimes you can become overwhelmed. Sometimes you can lose sight of, why you're doing it all. But being out of it, I have a better appreciation of my career and, all the things that I was able to accomplish. And it's cool because, I wanted to be a movie star because they told amazing inspirational stories. And it's funny because I think that I was able to do that as a fighter. So
for sure. I agree. I mean, you can't tell the countless amount of kids who look up to you, especially the girls who look up to you and the Rondas even the Amanda,
Nunes.
thank you. I was gonna say limo. So yeah, Amanda Nunes. All y'all. She is a good. She's a great fighter. But yeah, I mean, there's countless girls out there who look up to you and are just like, I can do that. If they can do it, I can do it.
Right.
Because like Eric Williams told me this one time. He's like, MMA is such a really tight knit sport. Once you're in it, you may train with like somebody who's in the UFC and not even know it. And then they'll just, be like, hey, come train with me here. And it just becomes like, it's just really easy to get around in those circles. I'm like,
it is a small world 100%, but that's kind of how it is. I think in general, once you kind of, whatever circle you're in, right? It's kind of like birds of a feather. You kind of tend to attract people in your life that are like-minded.
Yeah, I agree. Like-minded. I mean, especially when you're fighting, you have to have like-minded people around. You can't have a bunch of yes men around. It's just impossible.
Well, some people do. It's true. So, and to each its own. Sure. For some people, it helps their confidence to have yes men around them to build up their confidence, to let them know that they're the man, that they're the king of the jungle, and it helps them maintain this sense of confidence. For me, I was kind of like, I needed somebody that was going to shoot it to me straight and not bullshit me, and
for sure.
Don't beat around the bush. Let me know what it is I have to fix. Fighting is a very dangerous sport, and at the end of the day, when you step into the octagon, it's just you. Your coaches are there with you, but they're not in there fighting with you. Your family's not in there with you. It's you and the other person, standing across the octagon.
Of course. I mean, do or die. It's literally just you. They can, I mean, you see all the like Instagram and Twitter comments about like when people are in the corner and they're giving them like advice and they're yelling and they're being real harsh and being like real straight. And you're like, that's maybe what that person needs in that moment. You can't knock what they need.
The coaches know. Some fighters need to get woken up a little bit differently than others. We all have different personalities, so
of course
the coaches usually know.
Of course, and then for the world to judge, it's just you're not in there. You're not in that space. You've never been. 99% of these people have never been in that place,
right?
So they don't know. They're just talking to talk.
Right. Well, I mean, it's kind of that way, and I think I've become more at peace with the idea that that's kind of, the rest of the world's job is to observe, is to judge, because they're sitting on the sidelines. They're the spectators. What else are they going to do? They're watching, they're judging, but I'd rather be inside the arena. I'd rather be the athlete inside the arena, the warrior, the gladiator, whatever you want to call it. Actually being in action versus spectator, which is kind of funny because now as a broadcaster, I am a spectator. I am the one casting judgment,
But does it feel different? Because obviously when you're being an analyst, firsthand what everybody's going through versus somebody on Twitter who they may train at their local gym doing kickboxing, maybe a little Muay Thai, but they've never been the man or the woman in the arena. They've never been at that pinnacle height, like main eventing, like UFC Sacramento, against Paige Van Zandt. We're not there. They don't know.
Yeah, I do think I can offer a different perspective, a little bit more of a compassionate perspective, just as a fighter, in general. So yeah, I think that's kind of what is unique about my position in stepping into broadcasting.
I like it. And are you enjoying it?
I am. It's a lot of work. When I was a fighter, I really focused on myself. If I was doing any type of research, it was, about the girls in my roster, 115. That's all I wanted to worry about. There's only so much capacity in my brain,
Yeah, of course.
On top of being a professional fighter, you have to worry about your brand. You have to worry about social media. You have to worry about your, accounting engagements. And then, on top of all of that, my husband and I have multiple businesses and investments. And then on top of that, we have our daughter, so that was kind of the least of my worries. But now that broadcasting is in the forefront and having to analyze all these fights, I have to take a look at the entire roster of the UFC and kind of start having a better understanding of at least the top 10 rankings for each of the divisions and what the storylines are, you know, and who's doing what and who's fighting next. And so it's just, again, it's a brand new mountain, and I'm just kind of figuring out how to tackle it.
I got you. This may be a really, really dumb question. Would you ever use Chat GPT for analysis?
You know, I think Chat GPT is coming along. I think it's just a stronger search engine than Google. You know, so if you're, I think honestly, I'm going to have better insight myself. But if I needed somebody to brainstorm with and I didn't have my husband or a teammate or a coach there to kind of bounce ideas back and forth, maybe I might use ChatGPT to be like, hey, well, what do you think about this? Yeah. And, you know, see if it had a different opinion than what I had, you know? Yeah.
Because ChatGPT, like, I tell people, like, the really interesting stuff that it can do. Like, if you really, really want to get nerdy with it, you can go through and tell it all the clothes that you have in your closet and tell it to, like, pick out outfits for you. Like, if you're traveling, you can literally, and it will literally color coordinate and pick out clothes, and it'll pick out shoes. So you don't, it helps with so much without thinking. It's like I heard someone say, it's like working with yourself on your very best, most high functioning day.
Yeah. So did you use ChatGPT to help pick out your outfit today?
No. I was actually wearing a different jacket, and then I was like, no, it's too tight. I feel constricted. So I'm like, I'm just going to just grab this one and we just go.
Yeah. I've used ChatGPT a lot, to kind of not for analyzing, but for my other businesses, you know, to help organize my thoughts. Yeah. So, you know, so with my husband's, he is a general contractor. And so I'm in kind of charge of helping him put together the floor plans, helping him put together the lighting and the tile, and having to buy, you know, all of these fixtures and stuff like that. So sometimes I'll like go into ChatGPT and ask it like, hey, I have all these responsibilities. Help me break it down. You know, here's the timeline. Help me break it down. Because like in that sense, to me, it's like an assistant. And that's kind of what I need. It's like, you know, and then with my jiu-jitsu school, it's one of those things like, hey, I have a seminar coming up. Help me break down what I need to do in order to promote this the best way possible. And then it'll break it down for me. So now I have kind of like a checklist of the things I have to do.
I like that. Also, didn't know you had a jiu-jitsu school.
Yes, I did. So me, my husband, and my professor, who's been in my corner since as long as I've started training with him, Professor Barata or Rafael Fertitas, we opened a jiu-jitsu school here in Albuquerque about 3 years ago, and it's doing great. Yeah, I teach the kids class, and I'm really loving it. It's a great way to give back. It's a passion project, and it, you know, like I said, it keeps me in the world.
I love that. That's amazing. Also, your professor's super nice. I remember meeting him in Albuquerque. He was really nice. He's the nicest.
Yeah, he's a crazy guy.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that because I don't know him that well. But
he's crazy. He's a very outgoing, charismatic personality, which is something you absolutely need when you have a school. Anytime, you know, I'm taking my daughter to, you know, extracurricular activity. But the first thing I want to do is I want to see how the kids are interacting with the coaches. And I want to see how the coaches are teaching their kids. Are they, you know, pulling them in? Are they teaching them? Are they passionate about what they do? And are the kids responsive? So Professor Barata checks all of those.
I love that. That's so awesome. Is your daughter do you have like the idea to push her into mixed martial arts, or does she even have that aspiration?
Well, it's kind of two-way, right? She's little, she's petite, she's very sweet. And so I don't think she has a choice when it comes to her having to learn jiu-jitsu, because I think that it is the best way to protect her when I'm not around, is for equipped her with the knowledge that she can protect herself. So she kind of, before it was it was a chore to get her to class, and it was something that, we're pulling teeth with. She grew up doing gymnastics, and we let that be the forefront of her, athletic responsibility, because she was competitive in it and training, 5 times a week for 10 years. And she decided to step away from it. And we told her that she had to replace it with something. And so she picked jiu-jitsu on her own, and has kind of fell in love with it, and for her own sake, right? It's been her own story. And for a long time, I had to force her to go, and something clicked in her one day at practice where she just got fired up. She was rolling with one of the girls, and, it was just one of those things where she got pushed a little bit too far, and she had to push back. She had to make a choice, right? Am I going to submit, like, both physically and, like, spiritually, I guess, or emotionally? Am I going to submit to this confrontation, or am I going to bite down on my mouthpiece and fight back? Yeah. And she decided to fight back, and it kind of ignited this flame in her, this fire in her that she hadn't known about herself through gymnastics. And I think after that, she has had this very strong passion to learn all that she can in jiu-jitsu. So I'm glad that she found her own way with her own story, and it wasn't something that had forced her to do.
Yeah. Now, when you saw that, when she told you about that fire and that flame, did it take you immediately back to little Michelle when you kind of started, because you were getting bullied and stuff?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say I was getting bullied. I mean, I feel like all kids get bullied. It's kind of like a natural pecking order of life. Sure. And you have to go through it. If you don't go through it, you don't develop the skin you need, or the calluses you need to go through life. Life is hard. It's not fair. And you need to understand that those are challenges that are presented to you, and it's up to you how you deal with them, right? So yeah, absolutely. It kind of drew me back to, growing up and being the smaller person, being the underdeveloped person, and not having my voice, like I was talking about earlier, and very submissive. And martial arts giving me that voice, and I think it's doing the same for her.
See, I really appreciate things like that, because it comes full circle, because you experienced it, then now your daughter experienced, so it's kind of like you get to live and see. And since you've walked through that journey already, you can kind of like give her guidance and say, hey, right. I've been here where you've been. I've, granted, it was 20 some odd years ago, but hey, I've lived where you've been.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like I can say all of that, but it doesn't matter, because she has to go through it, right? It's cool to see, but it's also like there were moments where I wanted to step in and save her. I see her getting, beat up, not beat up, but smashed in jiu-jitsu, because the people that she's going with are bigger than her, more technical, and just me having to stay on the sidelines and seeing the tears roll through her eyes, seeing the frustration. And it's one of those things, like I as a mother, I want to step in and save her, but I also understand how vital those moments are, because she's going to gain way more. She's going to gain so much more saving herself, you know?
That makes sense. Yeah. I think any good parent wants to always save their kid when they see that their kid's like on the verge of tears or in a really dire situation. But I was saying this last night to somebody. Children nowadays want everything handed to them. They want it all given to them. And they don't, like when you and me grew up, like we had to endure struggle. And struggle and grit is what makes people like legitimately forged in steel. But nowadays, they don't want that.
Yeah, and I would guess. I guess it's the privilege. Like it's. So, my husband and I want to give Araya a better life than what we had, and sometimes in giving her a better life, you give her less struggle. And so, the best way that we know how to build mental toughness in her is through physical activity. And so, in giving her a better life, she has less struggles. She doesn't see a lot of the things that him and I saw growing up, but she still needs to develop that grit somehow. And so for us, it's through sport, it's through academics. And so it's still giving her struggles, still presenting her with challenges, but in a way where, but in a way that is not so dangerous, I guess.
For sure. Oh, for sure. I get that. And when it comes to, I know that you said that you dropped out of school. When it comes to being a parent, in that crux of going a creative route, saying like, oh, follow your passions, jujitsu, if that leads to the same career that your mom had, amazing. Pursue that, go at it full speed, or go to college, get the degree, get the paper. Like, how would you decipher that, just as an amazing mom that you are?
You're going to have to ask me that question again. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get a battery for my computer because it's starting to die.
No, I was simply saying, like, in between Araya choosing, like, if she wants to go down the path of like doing jujitsu and all that other stuff, MMA, like if she wants the same career path that you had versus going to college. I know some parents, like me, myself, I'm like, hey, if you like, my oldest daughter loves to draw. She's an amazing artist. She wants to go to school in New York and like spend too much money doing that. And I'm like, hey, if that's what you want to do, go do it. Like, right. I will support you. Go do that. My youngest, she's like me. She wants to be a photographer. She is a photographer. She kills it. And I'm like, yo, if that works for you, do it.
Right.
I know a lot of parents now, they're like, no, you got to get the piece of paper because that matters. But like, I'm just more curious because like, there's not like, unless you are like in the pinnacle of the UFC, main eventing, or even, 10 plus fights, you're not really making like a ton of money. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a struggle too.
She's definitely not a fighter. She doesn't want to get punched in the face. She loves jiu-jitsu, but she's not trying to get punched in the face.
Of course. Who wants that?
So I do.
It was sarcastically asked. Of course we know that you do.
It takes a certain person. Coach Jackson always says you have to have a couple screws loose to be a fighter. She's just seen too much. She's seen too much hurt. She's seen the good, the bad, the ugly, mm-hmm. and she don't want no part of it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like her going to college, I don't think college holds as much weight as it used to. Mm-hmm. As far as it being a necessity to be successful. There's a lot of people that I know that have gone to college and are still trying to figure out what they want to do in life, and they're doing it with in debt, yeah. Or they've gotten their degree, but now they have a career completely different from what their degree is. And so the reason why I think college was so important for a number of reasons. Obviously, if you're trying to do something like in a specialized field, like becoming a lawyer or a doctor, you have to get specific knowledge for that, right? Sure. But there's so many other different things. Like there's so many different options as far as what you want it to be or pursue or become in life. The reason why I think that college, so many people put heavy emphasis on having that degree is because a lot of employers want to know if you can dedicate yourself for a long period of time, 4 years, 6 years. So it's the same thing as if you went, if you were a veteran and mm-hmm. you were in the military for 8, 10, 20 years, that looks good on your resume because you dedicated yourself for 8, 10, 20 years. I was a professional fighter for 18 years. That says something about me. Yeah. You decided to dedicate yourself for 4 years to get your bachelor's, for 8 years to get your master's, or however long it took you to get your doctorate. Most employers just want to know like how serious you are about dedicating yourself to a certain craft. And I say that being an employer myself, when I have to hire people for our restaurants, for our jiu-jitsu school, I want to know that they are willing to dedicate their time to something that they're passionate about. So I think that's one of the reasons why college is important. And another reason why college was important in the past and it was networking, right? You build a network of people that you can grow to trust and rely on coming out of college. And so there's so many different ways, like it's the alumni, right? You can call up your college buddy and be like, hey, let's do this deal together. But there's so many more ways now that you can create connections without having to go to college. And I'm not trying to deter people from going to college. I'm just saying there are just more options now.
Of course. Don't go to college. Don't go to college. Whatever makes you happy. It makes money, right?
It might not necessarily make you happy, right? But there are a lot of different options, and and I think people are starting to see that if there's a very specific place that you want to be, and you already know that's where you want to be, why wouldn't you want to intern there? It's kind of like in fighting. The difference between like building up somebody from scratch versus having somebody come in that has been to a different school and has learned, all of things that he thinks he's learning. And now you're trying to teach him all these new moves, but he already has all these habits that he's learned from a different school. So now you have to reteach him. Yeah. If I'm a CEO at a company and I got a fresh guy that showed me that he was dedicated and eager to learn, and I can teach him how I can bring him up how I want to bring him up and teach him and take him under my wing so that, one day eventually he can be VP or even the CEO of the company. I'd probably rather do that,
Of course. I think that's the best way to teach people. My issue with that, just from living on my own personal experience, is that a lot of jobs don't care about people the way that they say that they do. And like me, I love everybody. Like I love people. I may not like everybody, but I love people. It sounds weird, I know, but like it's true. I love people. Maybe not like everybody, but I love people. Right. And so but companies, they don't take care of people like they used to back in the day, or even just as they are now. It's really interesting. So when you say like you would much rather have somebody grow up and come through and do it that way, I would agree 1,000% with you, as long as that person in that company actually cared about the person.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But it's twofold, right? Because now there are a lot of employees that don't give a shit about their business.
True.
They're like, I'm here for a paycheck. I'm going home at 5. And so I'm just here to basically do the bare minimum. And as an employer, you can see that a lot as well.
Yeah.
Like, all I want you to do is show me that you're eager to learn. Like, I feel like if you have the mentality going into business that, you want to show them that you're willing to do more than what was asked, I think there's a lot of room for growth and to move up the ladder very quickly.
Of course. I think culture sets a big part of that too, no matter where you are at any business. I think the culture of that business, when people get that buy-in, it changes everything.
Yeah. To me, I just feel like, if you show up and you do more than what's expected of you, you will get noticed. Just like in the gym, like, sometimes we'll be in the gym and people be like, man, I've been here for 3 months and I haven't got a chance to hit with Coach Wink. And I'm like, girl, I was here for 2 years before I hit with Coach Wink. You know what I was doing before I hit with Coach Wink? I was being the sparring partner for Julie Kenzie and Holly Holm, getting my butt whooped every day. Okay? So sit back and earn your stripes. Like, it is what it is. Like,
yeah, it is what it is. See, people want stuff handed to them. They don't want to put in the work for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just kind of like one of those things, like kind of just like bite down, grind it out, Yep. And it's what it is. It's like you're planting the seed, and what you're doing is you're watering it. You might not see the fruits of your labor, but it's you're creating those roots and you're creating that foundation. And without that foundation, you won't be able to like sustain yourself once you do break through to the surface. So it's like if you grow too fast, then there's nothing holding you down when the wind blows.
Yep. Exactly. You got to stay planted. Yeah. And if you keep showing up, you keep growing up. That's it.
That's it.
It's just that simple. So now that you are in a career change, and not even a career change, you've already made the career change. You are a movie star, bona fide. Biggest movie on Netflix right now, Havoc, Tom Hardy. Like, how does it feel to be just like at that pinnacle?
It is kind of surreal, I have to say, and also we filmed that during COVID. So I got a chance I lived in Wales for 6 months, and it was an amazing experience to be surrounded by such an amazing director and such amazing talent. Everybody kind of took me under their wing, and it was like, one advice after another, and just everybody wanting me to succeed. Mm-hmm. And that was very helpful for me. I think what was also helpful is that this role kind of is just, talking to Gareth Evans, he's like, you're a professional fighter for 18 years. You are a badass. Like if you were walking down the street and somebody tried to steal your purse, you'd probably beat the shit out of them. So he's like, but you don't walk around like with your chest up high, like almighty, like you could, because you are you don't have to prove to anybody that you're badass. You are, And so he's basically like telling me like, this character's the same way. Like, you don't have to act. You just have to be you, And so it was good because it was in my wheelhouse. Like I could speak with my body. Right. And I do think it is different because I'm not a villain in real life. I'm not a stone cold killer. I'm still very loving. I'm very compassionate. And even for, all my opponents that I've fought, I've always had so much love for them, after the fact. So that was fun to kind of dive into what it was to be like a stone cold killer. Yeah. And just not care. So that was really fun. But yeah, I like I said, I'm very blessed to have the opportunity to work with Tom, and he's very down to earth. And I think what also helped is Tom's like a huge jiu-jitsu practitioner. So, anytime we got the chance, we were training, we were rolling. And so I got to know him very good. He became a good friend of mine, like a teammate. Yeah. And, we understood each other's body language and stuff. So that helped as far as how good our fight scene actually turned out.
For sure. Which was amazing. We're not going to ruin it, but it was amazing. Like,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
do you mind if we pause real quick so that I can go get a charger?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, and we're back. Finished talking about Tom Hardy, but like, how did it feel you're playing a villain, but you didn't have any speaking role? Like, how did you? So everything at that point becomes more. You're being very intentional and very creative and expressive with your body. Was that a challenge for you?
I do think so, because when it pans to you, they're capturing your expression. They're capturing your reaction to what's happening in the moment. So you have to be really present. And then again, it's like one of those things, like how I kept just reminding myself, like, that we weren't acting. Like I just was putting myself in that moment, so it was like, what would I do? Who would I be? How would I be in my body if it was kind of like all business? Yeah. That's kind of how I take the assassin. She's all business. She's no emotions, very cold, because she has to be. She's mowing down literally the entire cast.
Very true.
And don't blink an eye. She didn't even blink an eye, So it's like one of those things, like, where does my mind have to be so checked out where that stuff doesn't matter? You kind of have to be psycho, kind of a little crazy,
Yeah. Yeah. I was telling my kids the other day, I don't know why we were talking about this. We were talking about No Country for Old Men and Anton Chigurh. And I was saying, like, researchers say that dude, the way that Javier Bardem portrayed him is literally what a psychopath to the T is like. Like, the way, and I don't know how he did it. I would love one day to just ask him, just to know, like, how do you like flip into that, act it out, and then just go back to laughing when the director's like, cut. You're like, hey, okay, cool. What's for lunch? What's craft services got? Like, can I get like a poppy soda?
I think it's hard for some actors to completely phase out of it, you know? And so that's why acting is a craft. That's why it's an art, because you really have to put yourself in a place where you can live that character in that moment. Yeah. With the distractions and everything going on, you know?
For sure. Do you think the more that you act, the more you'll get into like method acting, like not being able to, like, being in the role and then not pulling yourself out?
I don't know. Just because I think that through fighting, I've been able to flip the switch. You know, when the cage closes behind you, you're not my friend. And
of course,
you know, my objective is to win, and it's going to be by any means possible. It's going to be through violence, because that's what we're getting paid for.
For sure.
You know, we're not having a debate. You know, it's not a spelling bee. It's literally violence. And if I don't do it to her, she's going to do it to me. Yep. So it's one of those things where you have to flip the switch. And then and once the fight is over, you know, we can be respectful of each other, and we can shake each other's hands, and we can be friends. But before then, like, it is what it is, you know?
Is there a moment, like, after the fight's said and done, let's just say it goes to a decision, where it's just like, it's up in the air? Is there a moment where you just, in your mind, just go, okay, no more violent? Like, is it like instantaneous, or is it like you have to just go, okay, Josh comes in, coaches come in, Greg Jackson's there. I mean, Mike Winkle, all of them are there, and they're like, hey, Barack, everybody's like, Michelle, great job, amazing. Are you still in that like kind of fight or flight mode?
I think it's when the horn sounds, you know, it's like, and then it's like, all right, it's over. But you could still be in that. It's weird because, you know, each fight is different, and your mind space is different in each fight. So, you know, you can be completely dialed in and 100% laser focused in one fight. And in another fight, you can be trying to find that focus the entire fight. You know, I've been in fights where I'm literally watching I'm having an outer body experience, and I'm watching myself get beat up, and I'm telling myself, move, and I'm not moving. You know?
Really? That's wild. Like, you visually can, like, you know that you're getting beat up, I mean, obviously, but like, you're like, move, and your body's just not moving.
Yeah, it's the strangest thing, and it's just I don't know how else to explain it other than that. You know, and you'll talk to fighters, and they might be able to relate with me when I say this, but it's like you sometimes you get to a point in the fight where you're trying to gather your thoughts, and it's easier to gather your thoughts while you're getting your face punched in than to to move out of the way and to shuffle, because that takes energy, and that takes thought, you know, like to move. And so sometimes if you're not fully conditioned, if you're not fully in the zone, you know, those times when people are getting like, you know, they're like, oh, why is he staying up against the cage? I don't understand. He's getting, or why are they letting him punch him on the ground? Like, why don't they just get up? It's because, you know, they're trying to, their body and their mind are disconnected.
Wow. That's a really good point. Like, I've never thought of it in terms of that, where it's just complete separation. Like, you obviously are seeing punches come at your face, but your mind is like just not there. It's
there, but it's not connected. Like, it has to be in sync, you know? So there's so much stuff that goes on when you're in there.
Jeez. And this is why we're not a fighter. This is why I'm not a fighter. I'll leave that to you and to the great people in the UFC and all the other organizations. That's just not for me. Yeah, I can't.
You learn so much from it, you know, because stuff like that happens in our lives where we're disconnected, and it's like, why why is this happening? Or why am I not getting any momentum? Or gosh, like I just feel like I keep trying and trying and trying and nothing's happening. And it's just because there's a disconnect, you know, and sometimes you can't see it because you're in it, you know, and that's what's beautiful about fighting is because it's a literal metaphor for life. But, you know, when you're in it, you know, win or lose, you're taking something from it, you know, and then you also have coaches, you have feedback, you have like real life feedback, you know?
Yeah. Instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I fell in love with fighting, is because it is like a metaphor for life. And so many things that have happened to me in fighting, I can apply to life. And so I think that's why I think it's crucial for anybody at any stage in life to, you know, to have goals and to have objectives, but to also have people that, you know, you mentor, kind of like the people that you are bringing up. So if I'm comparing it to like my fight career, like there were always amateurs that, you know, I was bringing up and getting better as their careers were unfolding. And then I had teammates that were like, okay, it's iron sharpen iron. Like when we come in here, we're getting each other better because I know you're good and I'm good. So we're going to get each other better. And then I had teammates that were better than me and beat the shit out of me. And so it's like, you need all three levels, right? You need somebody that you mentor. You need somebody that's like eye to eye, and you need somebody that's better than you, so that you have like a well-rounded group of friends that are helping you get better. And then on top of that, you need a coach. You know, you need a life coach. You need a mentor. So
you apply that same philosophy to your new acting career?
Yeah, 100%.
Now, I guess because acting is subjective, how would you? I mean, obviously, a coach that we know that stays the same, that stays constant. But how do you rank that with actors? Because acting becomes subjective. So, I mean, obviously, let's say a Tom Hardy, he's at the top, he's much better. I'm not saying that you're bad. I'm just saying he's much. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm just saying he's much better. He's been doing it for a long time. And then you have people that you're bringing up. So how would you like quantify that for somebody?
Well, I think, like you said, it's all objective, right? It's kind of like how you see it in your own head. So like however you see it in your own head is how it's going to kind of pan out, you know?
Yeah. Makes sense. I was just curious. I ask everybody this question because I'm just curious. What if God himself was to come down in your house, we finish this podcast, you open the door and it's like, he's just standing there. He's like, hey, Michelle, I love you. I want to give you everything that you've ever dreamed of. Tell me what it is and I'll make it happen right here, right now. What would the dream be? What is Michelle's dream?
That's hard, right? Because you want to take like pain and suffering away from the ones that you love, and you want people you want the ones you love to have peace and to have, I guess that might be what I would ask him I wouldn't ask him to take the struggle or the pain away from my loved ones, because like we've been talking about all podcasts, is that it's kind of necessary. Mm-hmm. But, I would ask him to give peace to my loved ones and for them to have a life of fulfillment, you know?
Okay. Nothing for yourself.
Well, I think that you stress out so much about the ones you love. Like, I think that's why I'm so forward driven, is because I want a good life for my family, myself, you know, but the reason why I'm stressed out is because I want Ray to have a good life, because I want my mom to be able to not stress out anymore, because I want my husband to be happy, you know, and if they're happy, then I'm happy.
That's very humble and very selfless. Because I know not a lot of people think that way. Most people when people answer that question, it's usually like a lot of stuff for them. They're like, I want this or this. One of my friends who was actually on the podcast, she actually manifested an engagement. She was like, I want to be married. And then literally, I'm so serious. She within weeks, her name's Drew. Within weeks, awesome. her boyfriend proposed and she was engaged, but he hadn't heard it because the podcast hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But he proposed before it came. And I was like, okay. See, just manifest stuff for yourself.
You gotta put it out in the world.
Have to, right? I mean, that's the only way you can do it.
It would bring me so much peace to know that my family's taken care of, you know?
And it's really like when you said that it's stressful, I could see it in your face that it is stressful. Yeah, I'm just saying.
All of us, you know, we're all striving to have, you know, better lives, to leave the world a better place than what it was when we were here, you know? Sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Just be peaceful, be happy for everybody. We can go ahead and kind of wrap this thing up. What is on the horizon for you? Like what's coming up?
You know, well, I'm hoping to do more things with the UFC and the broadcasting team. I'm really enjoying that and just staying in that world, being on the other side of it. And then in the acting, just had a meeting with my agents, and they're shopping me out. There's a lot of cool projects coming up, both movie-wise and show-wise, that I am very excited about and very excited to have opportunity to audition for. So all those things are coming up. Like I said, my jiu-jitsu school, and I think eventually my husband and I are going to try to start up a podcast of our own. And there's a lot of things going on. So yeah, I think the best way to kind of keep up with us is just through my social media on Karate Hottie MMA across the board. But yeah, like I said, we're climbing this new mountain, and it's very exciting. You know, doing a lot of things with firearms now, and trying to equip young girls and even families with the knowledge of how to protect themselves, because it's a dangerous world. And I think that the more knowledge you have, the easier it is to walk through life with confidence, and the less of a target you are in this dangerous world.
Yeah. How has that been? Like, were you always like a lover of firearms?
No. But my husband, Albuquerque is kind of dangerous. It's probably the number 2 underneath Chicago as far as the most dangerous city in the U.S.
Really?
Yes, because we're a border town, and there's just it's a very dangerous city. Yeah. And so you know, he wanted me to get my concealed carry license, and I told him that I was nervous about it. I didn't have the confidence to carry, and he was like, well, let's practice, you know, and that's just like with anything in life. I think that most people are afraid of things that they don't know. And so the more you kind of unravel it and understand it, the less afraid you are of it. And so, you know, I continue to go to the range, and I think it's healthy to have a good amount of respect for firearms, because it is a tool, but it's a very dangerous tool. And so having a good amount of respect for it and understanding how to utilize that tool is very important. So started learning it, and I just think that it's become now an extension of, you know, of one of my tools that I have under my belt. And so I'm just a realist when it comes to those things. Yes, I've been a professional fighter for 18 years. I've been doing martial arts for over 30 years of my life. But, you know, if a man even my size, you know, I would probably say a little bigger. If somebody was very motivated to do something to me, they probably could, you know, and it could just be if they were planned out, it was 2-on-1 or a bigger guy catching me off guard. Or if I had my daughter with me and we were traveling cross country, like all those things kind of freak me out. And so I'd rather be prepared than not prepared, you know?
Of course. Now that you mentioned the whole Albuquerque being dangerous thing, the one thought that popped into my head is when I was in Albuquerque with y'all, you told me, don't ever pull over on the side of the street. If someone's pulled over on the side of the street, just keep going, because it could be a trap, because it's like human trafficking. I don't know why that popped back into my head, but it did.
Yeah, it's wild. It is original Wild Wild West in Albuquerque, you know?
That's wild. Cause like, obviously the Texan part of me, the country of Texas, I'm like, oh, someone's in distress. Let's pull over and be a good human.
I'm that way too. I'm a very compassionate person. I have I hate to see people hurt, suffer, but we're at a time in life where people take advantage of other people's compassion. True. And so you have to ride that line and pick your battles.
Yeah. Makes sense. It shouldn't be that way, but unfortunately it is.
It shouldn't be that way. Unfortunately it is. And so, like I said, the more equipped you are to protect yourself, I think the less scary it becomes. And so firearms have been, now I'm really comfortable around firearms. I have, my concealed carry, and now I'm an instructor for a shoot dog where we teach, self-defense with weapons. And, it's very, very rewarding to see, the students come through and have better appreciation of firearms, but not only firearms, but like everything that happens before, the firearm is even introduced. Not even just firearm. It could be a knife or anything like that, because a lot of people think that, I have a gun, I can protect myself, but there's so much stuff that happens before you even get to your gun. And then when you get to your gun, it's like, now it's in play for both of us. So, the minute you pull it out, it's not just your weapon, it's my weapon too. And it's whoever gets to it first. Wow.
So much to learn. Where do you find seriously, where do you find the time? You're a multiple business owner, an actress, a teacher, an instructor, firearm instructor. Dude, do you do competitions with fire? I'm like, where do you find the time? I feel so lazy now. I'm like, God, you do so much.
You make time, I think just the answer has kind of motivated me to kind of look at a year at a glance, because it goes by fast, and if you don't fill up your days, then your days are taken by somebody else's time. You're giving your time to somebody else. So
I think sorry.
I was going to say, it might as well be for you.
See, that's where I am, like, right in this moment. I'm in this place of, I feel trapped in a job, but at the same time I want freedom, because I want to be able to, like, I see people, I'm like, I just want to go get a coffee. I don't want to do work. I don't want to be sitting in an office all day. Like, I want to be able to be free, work for myself. It's what I've wanted since I was 9. And I'm like,
if that's what you want, it takes a lot of work up front, and so if you can withstand the storm, and if you can understand that, and you can kind of put your head down and grind it out until you break the surface, then you can have that. But, just opening up a business, building a home, trying to get to the upper echelons of your skill and your craft, it is going to take a lot of work. And so, you have to swing the pendulum hard, and you have to wait for that pendulum to come back. And so it's going to be a lot of work up front, but it'll pay off, once you break the surface.
Yeah. That's where I'm at right now. Cause I'm like, I don't like, it sounds really crazy. I'm like, I'd rather just quit my job and then try and go pursue doing what I want versus staying here, because the more that I stay, and it's just something that keeps evolving in my head, the more that I stay still and not pursuing what I want and going after and building my dream life, I just feel, but then at the same time, I'm like, oh, I'm a dad. I have my fiance and her son and my 2 girls. And I'm like, I have a family. Like, I can't just up and quit and have no income coming in. And so,
I guess it depends on what your mentality is. So what you're just saying is that burn the ship mentality. Like, if you burn the ship, if you quit your job, you have no other option but to hustle and try to make it work. Yeah. Otherwise, you're out of luck. Right. And so putting yourself at a deficit might be like a strategy to kind of get your butt in gear. I always tell it to my sister, because she always finds herself in these really hard positions, and she always gets herself out of them and becomes more successful from it. And I'm like, why do you have to put yourself in such a bad position in order for you to rebound off of that? Like, why can't you just rebound off of the good position, of a starting good position?
Right.
But we all are motivated in different ways. And And so if that's going to be what motivates you, then maybe that's what you have to do.
I don't know. It sounds really weird. I'm in debate with Jesus. I'm like, Lord, I want what you want from me, but I want to do something. I just want to just bye. Just
maybe he wants you to make the decision.
Maybe. I don't know. I honestly, since like we were talking about, honestly, I think my fiance even told me the other day, she's like, maybe you should just quit and just do it. And then just see if God will meet you there. And I'm like, but I have a family and I don't have that. I mean, I have like 401k and we're trying to buy a house. So like, I'm like, I can't buy a house and have no job. I'll never get a loan.
Yeah. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, time is, the most precious commodity, so
they ain't making no more time and it ain't coming back. So yeah, there you go.
100%. Well, if you need somebody to push you off the edge, I can push you.
Push away. You've already kind of like just like let go of some of the slack on the rope that I had tied so tight. I'm dangling off the edge. I'm like, okay, you can pull me up now. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate you. But seriously, I really do appreciate you doing this. This was really awesome.
Of course. Well, like I said, I wish you the best, and you just got to believe in yourself, and business is one of those things that it's never going to be perfect. Yep. It's never going to be perfect time. It's never going to be perfect product. It's never going to be perfect scenario. You have to get it started, and you have to problem solve as you're building.
Exactly. That's it. That's all. That's where we're at. Problem solving, doing it. So next time we talk, you may be like, "How's things going?" I'm like, "I quit my job."
Yay! All right.
See,
I look forward to that.
All right. Bye, everybody. I'll see you next week. We'll talk. All right.
All right. Bye.
Peace, y'all. Bye.